The arena roared with noise. Alien crowds filled every seat, chanting and shouting, hungry for blood. They came from all across the planet Zarkith to witness a rare event. A human prisoner, unarmed and alone, was about to face the fiercest warriors of the Varic Empire. Inside the metal gates, Callan stood silently. Dirt covered his face. His hands were chained, but his eyes were calm. He didn't shake. He didn't beg. He simply looked ahead, watching the light spilling through the large gate before him dot above the arena. In the high tower, the warlord of Varic leaned forward on his throne. Next to him stood his daughter, Valera, tall, proud, and feared. She had never lost a fight. Her golden armor reflected the sunlight, and her eyes were fixed on the human below. "He will not last a minute," her father said, smiling. Valera didn't answer. She had heard stories of humans before, fragile, soft-skinned, slow, yet there was something strange in this one's posture. He didn't look like prey, he looked focused. The gates clanged open. Out walked 10 armored warriors, each nearly twice the size of Callan. Their weapons were sharp and glowing. They laughed as they approached him, expecting an easy win. The chains dropped from Callan's wrists. He stretched his arms once. The crowd laughed louder. Then, in a blur, everything changed. Callan moved like lightning. He ducked under the first swing, stepped forward, and hit the warrior's knee with perfect force. The alien screamed and dropped. The next 2 came from either side. Callan rolled between them, grabbed one's arm, twisted it, and flipped him over the other. Gasps echoed through the arena. Valera's eyes widened. This human was not fighting like the others. He didn't need weapons. He used speed, balance, and strange knowledge of the body. Each hit was precise. Every move had purpose. In under 2 minutes, all 10 warriors were down, groaning in pain. The crowd fell silent. Then they exploded with cheers. Warlord Varic frowned. "Send 20 more." 20 new warriors marched out. They spread out around Callan. He looked tired already, breathing heavy, but his stance remained firm. He waited. The moment they rushed, he sprang into motion again. He used their weight against them, jumping, spinning, hitting pressure points. Some flew back with just one blow to the neck or chest. Others dropped their weapons as their arms went numb. Dust rose as bodies fell. Valera leaned closer to the edge of her platform. She had seen 1,000 battles, but never like this. This wasn't brute strength. This was something different, smarter, human. Again, the warriors were defeated. Callan stood in the center, blood on his shirt, scratches on his face, but still standing. The crowd chanted now, "Who man? Who man?" The warlord was furious. "Send." 50 warriors entered this time, including some of the warlord's personal guards. Callan backed away, circling them, planning. They attacked in waves. He took hits, now kicks, punches, but never gave up. His arms moved faster than eyes could follow. Elbows struck jaws, knees broke ribs, and once he even disarmed 2 enemies and made them knock each other out, one by one. They fell. He stumbled near the end, holding his side, but refused to go down. And when the last warrior dropped, Callan looked up straight at the high tower, straight at Valera. For the first time in her life, she felt something strange inside her chest. Not fear, not anger. Something else. Her father growled, "This is impossible. I'll send the rest." "No," she said suddenly. The warlord turned, shocked. "What?" Valera stepped forward, her voice loud and clear. "He has proven himself. This trial is over." "But—" She raised a hand and the guards backed away. Then she jumped from the high tower, landing gracefully on the arena floor. The crowd gasped. She walked slowly toward Callan. He stood there, blood dripping from his lip, watching her. Valera stopped just a few steps away. Her eyes scanned his wounds, his calm face, his steady hands. "You are not what I expected," she said softly. Callan didn't speak. "I don't know what you are," she continued, "but from now on, no one touches you unless I allow it." The crowd was stunned. The warlord said nothing. The soldiers stayed frozen. Callan finally spoke, his voice low but clear. "Thank you." Valera turned to the crowd and raised her arm. This human is under my protection. Harm him, and you answer. To me. The crowd roared louder than ever. Callan, once a silent prisoner, now stood as someone more, something the aliens had never seen before. A being who didn't need weapons to be dangerous. A being who won with skill and mind, not muscle alone, and above all, he had earned the respect of a warrior princess. The games were over. A new story had just begun. The arena floor was stained with dust, sweat, and silence. Callan stood still, breathing heavily, blood trickling down the side of his face. Around him, broken weapons, unconscious warriors, and torn armor told the story. But it was his calm gaze that stunned everyone. Valera stood beside him, her armor shining in the sun, but her mind far from the cheers. She had seen countless warriors in her life, some strong, some brutal, many skilled, but none like him. He had no weapons. Yet he shattered their best. The warlord, still seated in the tower, clenched his fists. His pride was hurt. His command was shaken. But he said nothing, because the people cheered louder for the human than they ever had for any champion. That night, Valera returned to her private chamber in the high fortress. She was followed by Callan, who walked behind her silently. 2 guards escorting them through glowing halls. They entered a quiet room filled with warm light and soft cushions. She dismissed the guards and locked the door. You may sit, she said. Callan didn't hesitate. He lowered himself onto a simple stone bench. His body was sore. Bruises covered his arms. Yet his eyes never looked away from her. She poured water into a silver cup and handed it to him. He accepted it with a nod. I don't understand, she said after a long pause. You have no armor, no weapons, and yet you defeated them all. Callan drank slowly. I studied how to fight. On my world, we use our minds first. Then our hands? Your mind? She asked, confused. Double quotes, yes. Timing, balance, weak spots. If I know where to strike, I don't need to strike hard. If I know where to move, I don't need speed. Valera folded her arms. You use science. To fight? In a way, he said. But also patience, focus. I watch their movements. I use their strength against them. Valera sat across from him, studying his face. You could have run. Why didn't you? Callan looked down at his bruised knuckles. Running would only delay my death. Facing them gave me a chance to survive. You did more than survive, she said quietly. You changed everything. Outside, the city buzzed with talk of the human. People gathered in groups, whispering. How he fought. Children mimicked his movements. Market vendors sold painted figures of him. Callan had become a symbol. Some admired him. Others feared him. In the war council chamber, the other warlords shouted, He is dangerous. He humiliated our warriors. He must be tested further or destroyed. Warlord Varric remained silent until the room quieted. He is under my daughter's protection. If you challenge him, you challenge her. The room went cold. None dared speak against Valera. Her sword had silenced greater men than these, but deep in their hearts they knew if a human could beat their best, what else could he do? The next day, Valera brought Callan to the Garden of Blades, a peaceful space, surrounded by carved stone and statues of past champions. She walked ahead, her footsteps silent on the smooth floor. I have a question, she said. Why are humans feared across the stars? Callan walked beside her now. Because we don't give up. Even when we lose, we try again. Even when we break, we rebuild. She looked at him. So that's why you stood alone in the arena? He nodded. I didn't fight because I enjoy it. I fought because I had no choice. Valera stopped walking and turned to face him fully. Then know this, while you are on this world, I will be your shield. No one will harm you. Callan was silent for a moment. Why are you helping me? I don't know, she admitted. Maybe because you are unlike anyone I've ever met. You showed them that power is not only about weapons. Suddenly, a loud sound echoed in the air. Sharp horn. Guards ran past them, shouting, What is it? Callan asked. Emergency in the east sector, a guard said. An experimental war beast has broken free. Valera's face changed. That area is full of people. She ran, and Callan followed without thinking. The east sector was chaos. A massive creature with steel plates, glowing eyes, and huge claws crashed through buildings. It had been bred for war, but now it was out of control. Soldiers tried to shoot it down, but their blasts only made it angrier. Valera drew her blade. "Stay back," she told Callan. But he didn't listen. As the beast charged at a group of screaming children. Callan sprinted forward. He rolled under its claw, grabbed a metal rod from the ground, and struck the joint in the creature's leg. It stumbled. Valera blinked in shock. He did it again, aiming for the same weak spot. The beast growled in pain, then turned to attack him. Before it could strike, Valera leaped in, slashing her blade across its face. Together, they fought side by side. It took both of them, his quick thinking and her strength, to finally bring it down. When the beast crashed to the ground, the people cheered again, this time not for a warrior, for a team, for two fighters, alien and human, who protected them together. Back at the fortress, Valera stood beside Callan as healers treated their wounds. She looked at him and said softly, "You saved lives today." "So did you," Callan replied. She smiled faintly. "We fight well together." Callan nodded. "Maybe we're not so different after all." From the shadows, spies watched them, eyes filled with jealousy. Some feared this growing bond, but Valera didn't care. From that moment, she decided no one would touch him. And if they tried, they would face her blade first. The city of Verac woke up to a new story. For years, strength had ruled the streets. Warriors were heroes, and power meant everything. But now, everyone was talking about something different. Not a sword, not a machine, but a man, a human who had fought without weapons and won. A man who faced a beast and survived. A man protected by Valera herself. In the high fortress, Callan stood quietly on a tall balcony. He looked out at the rising sun, the buildings below glowing with soft light. His body still ached, and the bruises reminded him of the recent battle. Yet something felt peaceful. For the first time since his capture, no one tried to chain him. No one threw him into a fight. He was safe for now. Valera stepped out beside him, holding 2 cups of warm herbal drink. She handed one to him without a word. He took it with a small nod. "Thank you." They both looked out at the quiet city. "You changed their minds," she said after a while. "Did I?" he asked softly. She nodded. "The people saw what you did. They saw you protect children, stand up to monsters, and show respect even in victory." Callan looked down. "They still fear me." "They do?" she said honestly. "But fear is not always bad. It can lead to respect. It can lead to change." Inside the fortress, news from the outer cities arrived fast. Some of the warlords were growing angry. They believed the human was a threat to tradition. A few even gathered secret forces, hoping to remove him quietly, but Valera was already prepared. She called her most loyal guards and gave clear orders. Callan must be watched at all times, but not as a prisoner. "As someone under royal protection, he walks where I walk," she told them. "He eats what I eat. No one questions him. And if anyone touches him without my word, they answer to my sword." The guards obeyed without hesitation. Still, Callan noticed the looks. Servants whispered behind his back. Soldiers stared as he passed. Some respected him. Others hated him. But none dared come close, not while Valera stood with him. Later that day, Valera brought him to a quiet hall deep inside the fortress. The walls were lined with maps, old books, and glowing symbols of knowledge. It was not a war room. It was a place of learning. "My mother built this room," she said. "She believed knowledge could be as powerful as a blade." Callan walked around slowly, touching the edge of a dusty scroll. "I believe that too." She handed him a small device. "This will let you read our language, study these records, learn about us, and maybe teach us about you." He looked at her, surprised. "Why?" "Because war is all we've ever known," she said. "But after seeing you, I wonder if there's a better way." As the days passed, Callan spent more time in the knowledge hall. He read about the old wars, the rise of the warrior clans, and the deep pain that shaped their history. He also shared things about Earth, how humans solved problems, created new tools, and built strong communities without violence. Valera listened closely. Sometimes she stayed late into the night just to ask him questions. Their bond grew stronger, not just in battle, but in thought. One evening, as they sat beside a low fire, Callan asked, "Why did you protect me that day in the arena?" She looked at the flames for a moment. "Because you stood against the storm and you didn't fall. You showed them something they've never seen, a warrior without hate." He smiled slightly. "Where I come from, we don't call that a warrior, we call it a survivor." Valera liked that word, but peace doesn't last forever. One night, Callan awoke to a strange sound outside his chamber. Footsteps? Fast, light. He stood quietly and pressed his back against the wall. Suddenly the door opened. A shadow moved in. A blade gleamed in the dim light, but before it could strike, Callan grabbed a nearby chair and knocked the figure down. A second attacker rushed in, and Callan fought him off. Using quick movements and what little strength he had, the fight was short. He was wounded, but alive. Guards rushed in moments later. Valera arrived soon after, her eyes wide with fury. She looked at the two attackers on the floor. Both were wearing the mark of a rival warlord. "They tried to kill you," she said, her voice cold and sharp. Callan nodded. "I think they didn't like what I represent." Valera drew her blade and pointed it at one of the attackers. "Who sent you?" The assassin stayed silent. She turned to her guards. "Take them to the stone pits. I will deal with them myself." That morning, the council gathered once more. This time, Valera didn't ask for permission. She stood in the center chamber, Callan beside her. "My champion was attacked," she announced, "inside my own home. This is a direct insult not just to him but to me." One of the old warlords rose. "He brings danger to our doors." "No," she said firmly. "He brings a chance to change. And if you fear change, maybe you are not as strong as you claim to be." The room went silent. Valera placed her hand on Callan's shoulder. "He is not just a human. He is a symbol of something better. And if anyone dares threaten him again, they will face me." That moment was clear to all. The warrior princess had made her choice, and from that day forward, no one was foolish enough to touch the human again. The days in the fortress passed quietly, but not peacefully. Valera kept a close watch over Callan. Guards patrolled the halls, eyes sharp and ready. The human moved freely, but never alone. Valera made sure of that. Yet not everyone was happy. One man, a trusted advisor named Kale, watched from the shadows. His face was calm, but his mind burned with jealousy. Kale was loyal to the warlord's old ways. He believed the human was a threat, a weak creature undeserving of protection. Kale whispered doubts to other nobles. Plotting quietly, Valera noticed Kale's cold glances but trusted him too much to act. She thought the man loyal. That was her mistake. One evening, while the fortress was quiet, Valera invited Callan to a small garden courtyard. Lanterns hung above, lighting soft paths through blooming flowers. The night air smelled of jasmine and earth. "I want you to see the city," she said softly. "Not from towers or walls, but where people live." Callan nodded. "I would like that." They walked through winding streets, passing markets where merchants shouted prices and children laughed. The city was alive, but it carried scars. Buildings were cracked and many faces looked tired. "Your people live hard," Callan said. Valera frowned. "Years of war have made it so. The warlords fight and the people suffer." Callan stopped. "I want to help." Valera looked at him, surprised. "How?" "I have ideas. Ways to grow food better, fix water, even protect without weapons." She smiled faintly. "You think you can change this world?" "I have to try." Back in the fortress, Kale's plan was moving forward. He gathered a small group of followers, loyal to the old ways. They agreed. The human was a danger and had to be removed. Late at night, they moved like ghosts through the halls. Their target was Callan. In his chamber. Callan was asleep. The quiet was peaceful. Suddenly, the door creaked open. 3 figures slipped inside. Blades drawn, Callan woke instantly. His instincts sharp, he rolled from the bed. Grabbing a heavy wooden chair, the first attacker lunged. Callan swung the chair hard, hitting the attacker's head. The man stumbled but did not fall. The second struck from behind. Callan twisted, dodged, and pushed him into a wall. The third tried to stab, but Callan caught the arm and bent it back. The fight was fierce, but brief. Callan used his knowledge, his quickness, and the small room to fight them off. Outside, Valera was alerted by her guards. She raced to Callan's chamber. When she arrived, she saw the attackers on the floor and Callan standing tall but bruised. Her eyes narrowed. "They came for you," she said softly. Callan nodded. "Someone inside is against me." Valera's face hardened. "I will find who." The next day, Valera summoned Cale to her chambers. He entered with a smile, hiding his worry. "You have questions?" Cale said calmly. "Yes," Valera replied. "Did you send men to kill Callan?" Cale's smile vanished. "I serve the warlord in this empire." "Then you betray them by plotting murder in my home," she said coldly. Cale's eyes flashed. "You are blinded by this human's tricks." Valera drew her blade slowly. "I will not let you harm him." Cale stepped back. "You will regret this." She did not answer. Instead, she signaled the guards. Cale was taken away. That evening, Valera and Callan sat by a fire in the garden courtyard. "The palace holds more enemies than I thought," she said quietly. Callan looked at her. "You protected me. That means more than you know." She smiled softly. "I did. Because you showed me a different kind of strength, one I want to believe in." Callan reached out and took her hand. "For the first time," he said, "I feel hope." But the threat was not over. Whispers of rebellion grew outside the fortress walls. Some warlords planned to march on the city, using the chaos to remove Valera and her human protector. Valera knew the battle ahead would be bigger than any arena fight. She prepared her warriors, training them not just to fight, but to protect the people. Callan worked alongside her, teaching new ideas and plans. Together, they were no longer just warrior and prisoner, they were leaders. The night before the battle, Valera stood on the fortress wall, looking at the city below. Callan joined her. "We will win," she said. "We will." He agreed, but deep inside, both knew the true fight was not only with swords, it was to change the hearts of a world. The city was tense. For weeks, Valera and Callan prepared for the coming attack. The warlords gathered armies in the shadows, ready to strike. But Valera had a different plan, one that did not rely on swords alone. "Strength is more than fighting," Callan told her as they stood in the fortress courtyard. "It is in building, healing, and creating. We can show the people a new way." Valera listened closely. "How do you propose we do that?" Callan smiled. "A challenge, not of weapons but of knowledge." Valera raised an eyebrow. "Explain," Callan pointed to the city below. "The people suffer because their tools are old, their machines break, their food is scarce. I can teach them to fix these things, to grow more, to live better." Valera thought for a moment. "And you believe this will stop the warlords?" "Not stop," Callan said. "Change." The next day, Valera called a gathering in the great plaza. Thousands came, curious and wary. Warriors, merchants, children, elders, all packed into the wide square. Valera stood on a raised platform, her golden armor shining. "People of Verac," she said loudly, "the time has come to choose. Do we continue the endless wars or do we try a new way?" Murmurs filled the crowd. Callan stepped forward. "I am a human," he said simply. "On my world we fight hard, yes. But we also work together to build. I want to teach you how to fix your machines, grow your crops better, and clean your water." A few warriors scoffed. "Why should we listen to a human?" One shouted. Callan met his eyes. "Because I have faced your best fighters without a weapon and lived, because I want to help you." Over the following days, Callan worked with groups of city workers and young warriors. He showed them how to repair old engines using simple tools. He taught farmers how to improve soil with new methods. He helped invent ways to purify water from the polluted river. Slowly, people began to believe. Valera watched, proud. Even some young warriors, tired of fighting, came to learn. One afternoon, as Callan fixed a broken water pump, a group of angry warlords arrived in the plaza. They shouted, "This human spreads lies. He weakens us." Valera stepped between them and the crowd. "You speak of lies?" she said. "But what have your wars done?" "Only hunger and pain." The warlords sneered. We will show you true strength." But before the fight could start, the repaired water pump roared to life. Clean water poured out. Cheering the crowd, the people shouted with joy. The warlords looked around. The crowd was no longer afraid. Later, Valera and Callan stood on the fortress balcony watching the sunset. "The people are changing," Valera said softly. Callan smiled. "Change is slow, but real." She took his hand. "You came to a strange world and showed us a new way. For that, I will always protect you." He looked at her. "And I will fight beside you, not with weapons alone, but with hope." But the old warlords did not give up easily. They planned one last attack, sending war machines to break the city. The night before the battle, Valera gathered her warriors. "Tomorrow, we fight not just with swords, but for the future," she told them. Callan prepared with his new friends, setting traps and defenses. Together, human and Varric warriors stood ready. When the war machines came, the city shook. The machines fired bolts and crushed walls, but Valera's warriors held the gates. Callan moved through the chaos, hacking into the machines' control systems using a device he had built. Slowly, the machines slowed, then stopped. The crowd cheered. The warlords' final attack had failed. After the battle, the warlords were forced to step down. Valera's father, the great warlord, came forward. "You have changed my world," he said. Nodding to Callan, the city began to rebuild. Stronger and more united than before, Valera and Callan stood together as leaders of this new era that no longer was strength only in weapons. Now it was in hearts and minds. The sun rose slowly over the city of Varric, casting soft light on the rebuilt walls and fresh banners waving in the breeze. The air smelled of flowers and hope. For the first time in many years, the people were free from fear. Callan stood on the fortress balcony, watching the city below. Children played in the streets. Merchants opened their shops without worry. Soldiers marched, not to fight, but to protect. Valera joined him, her golden armor polished and shining. She smiled, her eyes bright. "This is the future you helped build," she said softly. Callan nodded. "It is more than I dreamed." The council chamber was filled with people from all over Varric. Warlords, elders, and citizens sat together, talking about the new laws and plans for peace. Valera stood at the center, her hand resting lightly on Callan's arm. "Our world was once broken," she told the council, "but we learned from a human that strength is not only in battle. It is in unity, in knowledge, in hope." Callan spoke next. "I am honored to stand with Valera and the people. Together we will protect this world and build a better future." The council agreed, and the old ways of endless war began to fade. But peace was fragile. News came from distant planets, stories of war, destruction, and fear. Some in Varric worried that their new way would be tested. Valera looked to Callan. "What can we do to prepare?" He thought for a moment. "We must teach, share our knowledge, build friendships with others. Strength grows in understanding." Together they started schools and workshops across the city. They invited travelers and traders from other worlds to visit and learn. The people of Varric began to see that the universe was bigger than their wars. One evening, as stars lit the sky, Valera and Callan sat in the garden courtyard. The soft sound of water from a fountain and the scent of jasmine filled the air. Valera looked at Callan. "You changed my life." Callan smiled gently. "You changed mine too." They held hands, feeling the quiet peace around them. The city's guards kept watch, but their weapons were sheathed. They stood as protectors, not as warriors ready for battle. Callan taught young soldiers how to repair machines and grow food. Valera trained warriors to protect the people with courage and kindness. Together, they led Varric into a new era. One day, a messenger arrived with news from the warlord's old enemies. "They have sent a fleet," the messenger said. "They want to destroy Varric and return to the old ways?" Valera did not fear. She looked at Callan. "We face a test." Callan nodded. "But we have the people, and a new way to fight." The fleet arrived in the skies above Varric, dark and powerful. War machines filled the horizon, ready to attack, but Valera's warriors stood firm, ready to defend. Callan used the machines he had built, ships, that could defend and protect without destroying. The battle was fierce but different from before. It was not only swords and fire, but minds and hearts working together. Verax people fought with courage and cleverness. In the end, the invading fleet withdrew, defeated by a city united. Valera stood on the walls, watching the stars fade. With the dawn, Callan stood beside her. "This is only the beginning," he said. Valera smiled. "And we will face it together." The people of Verac cheered. The old wars were over. A new age of peace, hope, and strength had begun, and at the center of it all was a human, once unarmed and alone, now a symbol of change. No one would ever dare touch him again, because she would always stand between them.